Hey guys, welcome to It's My Turn, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of overcoming, empowerment, and finding your voice. I'm your host, Baby Doll Martin, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're on your journey to sobriety, rediscovering your purpose, or simply seeking inspiration to live your best life, this is the place for you. Each week, we'll explore real-life experiences, practical tips, and heart-to-heart conversations that remind you it's your turn to take charge. It's your turn to be alive and thrive. Let's get started. Welcome back, you guys, to It's My Turn with Baby Doll and Wrangler. I felt like we had some really great reactions and responses from people that knew us from before when we were in our total mess. And so I thought this would be really great if we continue to have conversations about our journey and where we are today, because where we are today is like totally awesome, right, honey?
Night and day. Yeah, it's totally awesome compared to where we were for sure. And if I would have known this 20 years ago, I would have started 20 years ago. Or,
Me too.
Or further,
It's always a great day to get sober. Like it's always, we're doing this sober in September thing, but I think next month I'm going to have sober in October, sober in November. So
why not? I mean, to me, it's a good way of, the old theory of day by day. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. But it really gets, for me, it really gets easier where I don't think of it day by day. And matter of fact, I really don't think about it month by month. But I did when we first started.
Yes.
And then when I got to the first year point, it was like, wow, 1 year. I didn't think I was going to be able to handle that. And you know what? For me, that was 1 year was 1 month was a true turning point, but 1 year kind of solidified it for me. So, and now we're 6.5 years plus into this, and I don't have any desire because, Tasha said, it's gotten so much better. We still have our struggles, but not necessarily with addictions. It's just general life stuff.
Yeah, we're still just regular people doing life together. But, I think one of the things that people fear when they think about getting sober is like, I'm not going to have any fun anymore.
I mean, that's not possible.
They
thought that.
They think that all their fun revolves around drinking because so much of the world does revolve around drinking, sporting events, and even if you go to the ballet or the symphony or a Broadway show or the movies,
Well, I'm a huge sports fan.
Yes.
And, football just started. Fantasy football, hell yeah. And,
You want to tell us how many fantasy football teams you're on?
10.
10.
10, yeah. I'm addicted to it. But it's funny, not having fun anymore. I used to live to go to the bar on Sundays, have my laptop up for the fantasy football scores and watching 7 or 8 games. And I thought I was never going to have any fun anymore with fantasy football. Man, it got better. Now I do it at home most of the time. And, going to sporting events. I love them now because I'm not, you go to the start of a baseball game. Well, baseball game's 2.5, 3.5 hours sometimes. And you're not drunk at the end of the game. And it's, believe it or not, it's more exciting at the end of the game sober than it is drunk, in my opinion.
At the end of everything, you get tired. I remember one of the things that we used to say is we would wake up in the morning and almost before our eyes were even open, we would say, wow, it feels so good to feel good in the morning.
Yeah. And we kind of make a joke out of it, and probably a not so good joke or tasteless joke because we'd probably start back up drinking. And, but eventually when we started doing it days in a row, that's when it really started feeling good. I always talk about how my mind started clearing up where I could think better than I used to,
100%. It was like there was a fog in my brain. And after 30 days, and after 60 days, and after 90 days, and after like 6 months, like I could almost feel my brain getting more clear. And I remember you said, wow, what could I have done if I would have stopped drinking sooner?
Absolutely. I know I missed, God knows how many number of opportunities in every field, whether it was business, making new friends, meeting new people. Boy, I wish, the do-over. I wish I could do that over again. How many times have we all said that? Too many.
Right. We'd have a lot more money and a lot nicer house.
Yeah, I'm working on
or
it,
a
honey.
few of them.
Well, there's something to be said about that because, especially today's world, people are having a hard time living. The paycheck to paycheck is, I think, real. And I think more and more people now are living paycheck to paycheck.
Struggling.
And, going to have that drink leads to many drinks or whatever your addictions are. And, people use it as an escape crutch. It's not, because it's making your life worse in many, many other ways besides your own physical health. It's crushing you financially. It's putting your family at risk, especially if, you're raising children or anything like that. It definitely goes the wrong way. And I'm not saying you're going to be a millionaire overnight if you quit drinking, but I promise you this, living month to month gets a lot easier.
And on that, I want to say, don't give up on yourself.
Amen.
Because literally what happened to me is so many things were happening around me. The loss of my mother, the situation with my father, a rough marriage, just trying to make it in life. And I got to a place where I gave up. I gave up on myself. I gave up on my husband. I gave up on my family. And I gave up on God. And I replaced it all with vodka. Straight up what I did. And so don't give up on yourself. Life gets hard, especially right now. And the consumer credit card debt is like the highest it's ever been in history right now. So we know that everybody is struggling a lot in every area right now. Yep. But that won't make it any better. It'll make it worse.
And 100% will make it worse. And I'm impressed you knew that consumer debt stat. You've been over...
I'm an overachiever sometimes. I'm a good listener. You better watch out.
And even if you have given up on yourself, you can go the other direction. Tasha just told you about hers. She went straight to vodka. Well, now she's away from vodka and back in real life, and we both are. So there's plenty of times I've given up on myself. Plenty of times. And you can come back. You can come back. There's nothing in this world that you cannot do if you get yourself going in the right direction.
Yes, I read a statistic that 75% of the people who want to get sober and recover do. And when I was Googling that, I was expecting to find a much worse number.
Yeah, that kind of surprises
me. And
I
thought, wow, that's pretty good.
It's really good, but it also tells you that you got to be determined, because of those 75%, sure. That number really surprised me. That's the first I've heard of that. But those are very determined people. They decided to get with God, put their life in the hands of God. I think it's probably, and they got help, whether it was through friends, treatment centers. There's endless ways of getting help. If you think there's a good way to get help, try it. Matter of fact, think of 5 more ways and try all of them.
I did everything. Like I say all the time, like instead of looking at it like you're going to use no matter what, you're going to drink no matter what, you're going to gamble, you're going to sex addiction, you're going to whatever the thing is no matter what, you switch it to I'm not going to no matter what. So you have that same stubbornness already. and you're just altering it to the other side, and it totally works. And I wanted to say that Darren very much led us through that sobriety. So he woke up that morning and said, I need help, and I want to go to AA. And I didn't actually believe him, but then he got up that morning and we went, and then we had the ice storm. we had 2 weeks of sobriety. I couldn't believe it. He actually went to AA and went to the meeting, and we talked about what you said, like everything that bad that's ever happened to us had something to do with alcohol in some way.
In one way, shape, or form.
And then we went to Abilene, and there was an ice storm, and Aunt Judy's house, we couldn't even get a pizza. So we were there for 5 days, and all there was liquor.
And Abilene, Texas didn't have DoorDash at that time.
Yeah, and there was barely any food in the house, and that was, I don't think we talked about that, where we were fighting, and it was terrible, and I was going to get an Uber. I was out on the driveway with my suitcase, planning to call an Uber in an ice storm in Abilene, Texas.
For a 3.5 hour drive. Which would have been probably an overnight drive.
So we were just a mess and fighting, and we decided that, that wasn't going to work.
No, it wasn't going to work. I was done. Matter of fact, I remember the morning I decided I quit. I woke up. My anxiety level was through the roof. And it wasn't, well, partially it was because of alcohol, but I knew that we're going to start drinking, get in a fight, and go over bed. And my anxiety was over getting in a fight because I didn't want to do it anymore.
Well, you grew up around that.
Yes, I grew up around it. I didn't want to be any part of it, and because I've seen it all through my life, and I was just tired of it. And that was one of the reasons. There's many other reasons why I didn't want to drink, but it was controlling my life, and I just something hit me, and I think God hit me and said, "Fix this. You don't need this. This ain't you." And I said, "I'm going to fix it," and I'm glad my baby doll came for the ride.
So he did lead that 2 days. He stopped 2 days before I did, because I was like, I'm still looking at this ice storm outside. I'll be fine for 2 more days. But then we quit, and we left that house in Abilene that day, and we were done.
2 days later, yeah. And you said on the way home and that I'm done, because I don't think you may have realized that I was sober for 2 days, but I'm not so sure you did.
No, I think I did, because I was like, okay, good for you. I'm not yet. That's the truth. But so from there, I wanted to talk about, you're better together.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you can find someone, you need to get a sponsor. You need to get in the community groups, and you need to find people that are getting sober too, because there's so much knowledge. There's just wealth of knowledge in those rooms, and they are there to help you. There's plenty of help, like Darren was saying. When you decide you're ready, it's like when you decide you're going to drink no matter what. When you decide you're ready and you've made the decision, you can do it. It's so true. And the other thing that happened was...
Can I interject something
real
quick? When you decide you're ready, here's what I've seen that most people do. They say they're ready, but they always come up with an excuse. Oh, I don't want to get help because no one can relate to my problems. That's BS. Because I promise you, whatever problems you had, someone else has had them.
Everybody in the AA rooms of AA have all the same problems.
Well, I remember going to the first AA meeting as people were talking about their issues and what have you, and I'm thinking to myself, been there, done that, been there, done that, done that, done that. So, it was like, it was confirmation that I could do this. There's other people doing this, experiencing a lot similar things that I'm dealing with. And, it made it easy. Not super easy, but it definitely made it easier.
Huge. It helps huge.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry for interjecting.
No, that's okay. And I also remember being in your apartment on a Sunday and playing online church at Elevate Life Church, Keith Craft.
Oh yeah. To this day, I have no idea what he said in that church service, and I even told him that. But it changed my life. And I have no idea what he said. I cried through the whole thing watching that. And that's when when I started getting back involved in the church. It took a little bit, but I like to say I'm very, very involved. Matter of fact, we ran another church over the weekend. It was great.
Yeah. So, being better together with your sobriety is huge. And if you have someone in your family that's going through that, please be supportive and encouraging. And please, learn what you can do to help them too. And when it comes to the God piece, because you mentioned that, it
starts with God.
It's very tricky, or there's a fine line in between trying to encourage someone to come with you to go to church and forcing them and making them feel bad about not going. And so that's not going to work. It's like I tried, and I don't really like to talk about this part because I did try to pull, when I was married to other people, pull them into the church, and I was not successful. But I know that I probably cut the legs out from underneath them and made them feel stupid and terrible and dumb for not wanting to go, because I just was at another place and I couldn't get enough Jesus, but I couldn't. So I knew what not to do is my point. And so with Darren, I really tried to, and I'm going to let you talk about it in a minute and see how I did, but I tried to let it happen on its own. Because when we're in recovery, you have to decide to get sober, because you can't do it for anyone else but you. If you haven't decided to do it for you, it's not going to happen. You're going to fail. Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same with God and Jesus and the whole church piece. It's like, I'm going to be on my own journey with God, and I have to do what I have to do for me. And then Darren needs the space and the freedom and the time to come along in his own journey and path.
Yeah. If you would have forced me into it, I probably would have been more reluctant. And I don't want to say we had a lot of conversations about it even up until that point, because, at that time we were still looking to change our lives. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why I was crying during that whole sermon I was watching, because I knew I was not going in the right direction. Even with Tasha, I was not going in the right direction. And I think that's what maybe opened my eyes, if you will, got me going. And I will say that our lives, once we started getting more involved in the church, meeting great people at the church who also had a lot of problems, came from similar situations like us. You'd be surprised that a lot of the people at church are very similar to the people at Alcoholics Anonymous or treatment centers. Everybody has had issues in the past. And what I felt is, I see, a lot of people are being delivered. I didn't know that term then, but I know it now. And it's great. And, I tell you, and by the way, I'm not a holy roller, just to let you know.
He just wants to clarify that. He's not a holy roller.
Or maybe I am. I don't care. You can call me whatever you want. But I can tell you, being involved in the church with great people from the church makes everything a lot easier. Everything. And it's all because of God. That's...
So it's the sense of community, I think, for both of them, whether
Absolutely.
You're trying to get sober,
Yep.
or you're trying to go through recovery or healing, or you want to really get to know this Jesus piece, mm-hmm. and spending time doing that, because they're both very much related.
I agree.
Even in the books of AA, it says that we have to have a spiritual awakening or a spiritual psyche. Like a psychic change. Like you have to have, I can't remember the way they worded it, but you can't do it without a higher power. So you're going to have to figure that piece out eventually. And they're both connected. They're totally related. So having a community around you and having those safe spaces really allows us to talk about some of those issues that, because you're afraid to talk about your stuff, the funk and the junk and the stuff. Like, you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to admit that you have it, but we all have it. We all have it.
Oh, I never wanted to talk about it. In some ways, I still don't.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, and that's just, I think it's in a defensive side that everybody has. And matter of fact, I think that defensive side, for the most part, is the number one reason why you don't get help. And when I look back on it, I was like, oh, that's kind of stupid. I wasted a lot of years of my life ignoring it. Ignoring the problem,
Yeah, that's very common. You don't think you have a problem, or you don't want to admit that you have a problem. You're afraid of the judgment that's going to come. Like, a friend of mine, Kelly, the other day sent me a video of a lady who was a newscaster or a sports reporter or something on a channel in Ohio. And she had a problem with alcohol. She ended up with a DUI. And she goes to a treatment center, and then she spends 2 or 3 months, which is a very small amount of time for the initial part of her recovery, and then ends up losing her job, because of alcohol. And it's just, if I could remove that shame piece across the whole world, I would do that, because we need to get healed. If you think of like a team, like a sports team, like a football team, like, we're only as good as the weakest player, right? Well, and so our whole world, we need to elevate the weakest players.
I love how you just kind of put it into a team concept, because I could feel people that are watching this right now saying, I don't have a team. Yes, you do. You have teams are all around you. You just got to look. Church, that's a team. AA, that's a team. Online podcast, is that what we're calling this?
Yes.
A podcast? There's a team. So you can find team members, and it takes a lot of members to do their part to make a great team. The Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes.
They got a great team, but they all work together. It's the same in baseball, any sport, but it's the same in life. And life is the biggest game you're ever going to be a part of. So, by the way, I named off a bunch of teams because I'm a sports fan. I was a former athlete. But guess what? The game of life, everybody plays. So,
So find your team. That's a great message, honey. Find your team. And I think we should look at our families like a team.
Absolutely.
So if someone had cancer, we would rally around them, and we would pray for them, and we would help them with doctor's appointments, and we would help them take their medicine, and we would, give them rides and things like that. This is how we need to handle an alcoholic. This is how we need to handle an addict, is that we need to rally around them. We need to pray for them. We need to take them to meetings. We need to make sure they're taking their medicine right. So many times there can be an underlying medical issue. It could be your hormones. It could be your thyroid. It could be a mental issue, and we're self-medicating because we haven't gotten an accurate diagnosis for what's underneath. Why are we drinking? Why are we using? Why are we gambling? Why are we blowing money out the window? Why are we doing these things? And sometimes it'll kind of rotate around from thing to thing to thing to thing until you have a complete spiritual adjustment, really, with God.
100% agree with it. But one thing I'll interject, it all starts with you and it ends with you. So how you get from, how do you want to say it, do a complete 180, in your life is, you're going to have a lot of holes to fill in a good way, like finding a team. support, and it might not come from your family. I don't really have a lot of my natural family. Most of my families, they passed away. And so I have my new family, which, believe it or not, was a motivating factor in cleaning my act up. Not the motivating factor, but it was definitely a top 3 for sure. And, number 1 was myself. But, you got to get there. And if you feel like there's nobody, I promise you there's somebody. And matter of fact, that somebody is God. Is definitely God. If you got nobody, deliver yourself to God, put it in His hands, and it will help your way of thinking, and you ultimately go down the right direction.
Absolutely. So, who's on your team? Who do you have on your team?
We are. We're
on your team. And, when you decide that you're going to do it, you're going to find a way. You're going to find your team. You're going to find the treatment center. You're going to find the right doctors. You're going to find... You'll be amazed at how many things God will put together for you to make a way and put together the right path for your journey. Because my journey is not the same as Darren's, and our journey is not the same as yours, but God will show you your path, and you'll get on the right journey. And let me tell you something, too. It's like, it takes a lot of courage to admit you have a problem. Mm-hmm. And that is a really strong thing to do. And so don't look at that as something weak, because that's not weak. If you had cancer, you wouldn't think there was something morally, ethically wrong with you because you have cancer. If you have heart disease or liver disease or you're bipolar, you wouldn't think there's something morally, ethically wrong with you. So I don't know where that came from with alcoholism and addiction, but that's not the case. It's not that there's something morally, ethically wrong with you. It's that somewhere along the way you gave up. You gave up on yourself, you gave up on people around you, or you gave up on God, or all of it. And you forgot how to love yourself, or you never learned how to love yourself the right way. Because the way we handle God is the way we handle ourselves, which is the way we're going to handle everybody around us.
I just keep going back. Don't feel bad about yourself if you're not in a good situation. Feel good about yourself knowing that you can get out of that bad situation. And, but it starts with you. You got to decide it. And you really got to be committed to it. Because if you're not committed to it, you're just, you're kidding yourself. That wasn't the right word that I wanted to use, by the way, but you are. You're just kidding yourself if you're not really in the right situation. So you got to tell yourself over and over again. And I just want to say keep saying, and I'll always say, there's a ton of help out there.
There actually is.
You do not have to do this by yourself under any circumstances. Matter of fact, I would argue that people that try to do it by themselves probably fail.
Gonna 100% fail, because you can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. And all of your best thinking got you to the position that you're in. So recognizing that you need help, and there's plenty of help, is huge.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. The embarrassment part.
Yeah.
Getting embarrassed because you don't want to admit to your help. So, people may think you're the greatest person in the world, or whatever the case is, or you don't want to embarrass yourself because you don't want people to talk about you. For God forbid, people talking about you. Well,
let them talk.
I'll tell you what worked for me. People were talking about me, and I realized it wasn't in a good way. For example, I think I said on one of our other podcasts, and I said, yeah, who's that guy at the end of the bar? He is always here when we come here. And that, that's not being talked about in a good way.
There he is.
I know that's kind of oversimple, but yeah, if you got a problem, but trust me on this, most people know that you got a problem.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah.
You're not fooling anyone. Everyone around you already knows.
By the way, even the people that you don't know, you're not fooling them.
No, they already know. And when you come forward and admit that you have a problem, and when you decide that you want to get help and you reach out to everyone and ask for their support, they will rally around you. And later down the road, you will gain so much respect from so many people for doing the right thing for you. And
you'd
let
be
me
surprised how many, sorry, but that's a great point. You'd be surprised how many people decide they want to hang around you more.
Yes, and you know what else is, I didn't realize the ripple effect that us getting our lives together was going to have. And it pulled our kids together, and the ripple effect is huge. So the ripple effect that you're creating in your life is either for good or not.
This doesn't happen overnight.
It takes time.
It takes a little time, but the time goes by fast when you're enjoying it, when you're feeling really good about yourself. You actually can't wait to get up in the morning and to get after it, no matter what you're trying to do. It's exciting to get up in the morning, of course not feeling pretty good, or feeling very good, I should say, and say, okay, let's bring it on. What can we take on today? Boy, it's a beautiful day. I just want to sit out by the pool and really enjoy it. Simple things like that.
Yes, 100%.
I actually like sitting out by the pool every once in a while. Matter of fact, I got my swim trunks on now.
You can't see it, but I can.
And so it takes a little time, but you will get there. You just got to believe in yourself.
Yeah. So it's your turn. It's your turn to get sober. It's your turn to have the courage and the strength to stand up and say, I need help, and tell someone. Even send us a direct message. We want to cheer you on. We want to pray for you. We're on your team if no one else seems like it is. But I promise you, when you admit that you've got a situation going on and you want help, people will rally around you. So thanks for listening to us today, and thanks for joining me today, Darren.
Oh, thank you.
Sober up.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of It's My Turn. I hope you found something here that inspired and empowered you to take the next step in your journey. Remember, no matter where you are or what you've been through, it's never too late to take your turn and step into the life you were created to live. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And don't forget, I'd love to hear your stories and continue the conversation. Until next time, keep going and sober up.